Hey guys, this is Abhishek from gadgetstudios.com, and today we are going to do the quick hands-on comparison of these popular phones, these popular Android phones, and all of these phones are budget Android phones, so they actually do not cost much in terms of the price. So we have Redmi 1S with us, which is 5,999, and this device is not yet available in the market, but it will come on September 2nd. On that day you can buy it from Flipkart. Then we have the Zenfone 4 with us. Zenfone 4 is already available on Flipkart for 5,999 again. So the pricing of these two is same. Whereas we have the Moto E, which actually started this particular segment of providing a very good phone, especially for the price of 6,000 to 7,000 rupees. So this device, in comparison to these two, is available for 7,000 rupees, whereas these one are available for 6,000 rupees, and all three of them can be bought only from Flipkart. So you cannot buy them offline. So there is no shop you can actually go and buy any of these three phones. Talking about these phones, I would say these phones are the most popular phones in the price budget of 6,000 to 7,000 rupees. So we are going to compare all of them. This particular segment of 7,000 rupees and a very good hardware was actually started by Moto E, which we have with us. Moto E is a very popular phone which was sold in huge numbers. So again, then we have seen the competition coming from Asus in the form of Zenfone 4 and Zenfone 5. So Zenfone 4, which we have with us, is 6,000 rupees, and it has decent specification, little bit better specification as compared to Moto E. And now we have the Redmi 1S, which is going to come into the market, and it will create a disrupt as per our own assumption, because the kind of hardware specification which you get on the Redmi 1S is far more superior than Zenfone 4 as well as Moto E in terms of overall features, in terms of hardware, in terms of camera, in terms of display size, and all other things. So we are going to do the comparison now in between these three phones. So let's start the comparison. First of all, I will talk about the build quality of all these three phones. So the build quality department, especially on the Redmi 1S, is definitely good. It is good enough on the Zenfone 4, and it is good enough on Motorola Moto E as well. So all these three phones actually have a very good build quality. I do not see any kind of sound coming from the back cover. The back cover is not giving me any kind of flex. And again, when we talk about the Zenfone 4, the Zenfone 4 is also quite strong in terms of the overall build quality. It is a pretty good handy phone. You can easily hold this phone in one hand. And when we talk about Moto E is again having a very good build quality. So in terms of build quality, all these three phones come very close to each other, and they are almost equal in that particular department. Apart from this, if we talk about the camera, so talking about the camera, we have 8 megapixel autofocus camera on Redmi 1S, which can record high definition videos at 720p as well as at 1080p. We do have LED flash as well for low light photos or for the torch. And again, the loudspeaker is fairly loud on this device. We also have secondary microphone on this device. So let's now compare this one with the Zenfone 4. So in this particular department, we can say the Zenfone 4 has 5 megapixel camera. It is an autofocus camera. The loudspeaker is fairly loud, not too loud, but again, this camera is better than the Moto E, which we have with us. So the quality of images which you can get from the Redmi 1S is going to be far more superior than these two. But if you compare the Asus Zenfone 5 with Motorola Moto E, Asus Zenfone 5 definitely has better camera. So in camera department, Redmi 1S wins, and second position is taken by Zenfone 4. In build quality department, all of these three phones are equal. In terms of loudness, if we talk about, the loudness is the highest on Redmi 1S. Then we have the Zenfone 4, which is again fairly loud, but the loudness which we have on the Motorola Moto E is again not very loud. And I can say that both of these two phones in terms of loudness are kind of close to each other. There is a very minimal difference in terms of the loudness of the loudspeaker. Loudspeaker, on the other hand, in terms of the design, is slightly better placed on Motorola Moto E, which is on the front, so it does not get blocked in any kind of orientation. Either you place it like this on a table or you hold it like this. It is a very good design. Whereas on this device, the loudspeaker is actually at the back side. So if you place the Zenfone 4 on a table, the loudspeaker will get muffled to an extent, but it will not get blocked. Same goes with the case with Redmi 1S. Redmi 1S loudspeaker is fairly loud, much louder than these two phones. And again, in terms of the overall design, this is a pretty okay design. If you place it like this on a table, then the loudspeaker will not get blocked because it is slightly on the curved side. So it will get muffled a bit, but it will not get blocked. So let's talk about the third thing, which is going to be the display size. So In terms of display, definitely Redmi 1S takes the lead over here as well. So again, for this price, the display is the best on this one. In terms of viewing angles, in terms of the overall, you can say, color production, I would say the display of Motorola Moto E is also very vibrant. It does give you pretty good viewing angles as well. So I can say that the display has pretty good viewing angles on both of these two phones, but viewing angles are slightly better on the Redmi 1S, as you can easily see from this angle, whereas the viewing angles are not that great on the Zenfone 4, and they are the worst compared to these two phones. In terms of the viewing angle, you can see the colors over here, you can see the colors over here, but again this display gets faded out a bit. The green color over there at the phone dialer also is not very much visible. So in terms of the display size is 4.7 inch here, it is 4 inch, and we have 4.3 inch on the Motorola Moto E. So in case display size matters to you, then display size is again higher on the Redmi 1S, and it is again 1K less than the price of Motorola Moto E. But a new version of Motorola Moto E will also come into the market, and we will see the competition how it goes. So talking about the front camera now, one thing which I definitely do not like about the Motorola Moto E, even a 7,000 rupees phone it is now, it does not have a front camera. So front camera is missing on the Motorola Moto E, whereas the Zenfone 4, which cost 1K less, which is 6,000 rupees, it does have a front camera, although this is a VGA fixed focus camera, and the camera quality from the front is again not that great. Whereas the camera which we have on the Redmi 1S, the front camera, it is 1.6, and it is the best front camera out of all these three basically. So this front camera can actually allow you to do a good quality of video chat, and I can show you the UI of the front camera. So we have the UI running over there and over here, and I can toggle to the front camera on both of these devices, and again this device gives you the view like this, which is kind of okay, not too great, a kind of a hazy view. But if you compare the view over here, you can see the difference. So you can see that the clarity is much better on the Zenfone on the Redmi 1S as compared to the front camera which we have on Zenfone 4. So this is again a VGA camera, kind of a hazy video feed will be there, whereas this one is a high definition camera, and you can do a high definition video chat from the front camera on Redmi 1S. So let's take a look over the processor now. In terms of processor specification, this one is a quad core CPU, 1.6 GHz Snapdragon 400. So it is Snapdragon 400 1.6 GHz quad core CPU, whereas the Motorola Moto E is Snapdragon 200 dual core CPU. And when we talk about this one, this is again a dual core CPU. It is having an Intel chips inside, and the processor is Z2520. So again, in terms of processor, I would say all of these phones are good enough to be used in day-to-day usage. I do not face any major lag in any of these three phones. In terms of usage, they are fluid. This one is pretty fluid in terms of the overall UI. The UI is very much customized on this one. It is running stock Android. In case you are looking for stock Android experience, you can always go for Motorola Moto E. But if you actually want some extra features and a smooth UI, then you can always go for the Redmi 1S, which actually gives you a different Mi UI, so which runs on top of Android, and it does give you a lot of features. Whereas the Zen UI, which runs on top of Zenfone, in terms of the UI which runs on top of Android, this UI also give you a lot of options, like on the lock screen itself you have shortcuts for the camera, for phone dialer, for missed call and messages. You can easily do that, and you do have some extra widgets as well which will work in the form of weather widget. You do have some extra widgets like calendar and other thing. So this UI is also giving you a lot of options, but there are more options which are going to be visible over here on the Mi UI as compared to this UI, the Zen UI. So in terms of UI customizations, I can rate the Redmi 1S as at the first position, and then we have the Zenfone 4 at the second position, and then we have the Motorola Moto E. In terms of smoothness, I can say the smoothness is pretty good on this device. It is pretty good on this device as well, but this device in terms of smoothness will take the third number as compared to these two devices. Now comparing these devices on the basis of pure specifications, I can say that this one has a quad core CPU. So in case quad core and dual core does make a difference for you, you can always go for the Redmi 1S. This device, when it comes to Android version, it is running on Android 4.3 as of now, and it is upgradable to KitKat. So KitKat is not there as of now in Redmi 1S, whereas it will be upgraded as per the information which we have got from the company. As far as Zenfone 4 is concerned, the Zenfone 4 is running on the latest version of KitKat, which is again not the latest version but a recent version of KitKat, which is 4.4.2. so 4.4.4 is already out, but this one is running KitKat 4.4.2. and when we talk about Motorola Moto E, Motorola Moto E is running on the latest version of KitKat as of now, which is Android 4.4.2 again. So on this one I think 4.4.4 is also available. Let me just check for the same. I think I have updated, so I have not updated, but I think that the version is available. So as of now, if we talk about the overall value for money, I can say that the value for money is much better over here. So you are getting a better front camera on Redmi 1S as compared to these two devices for 6K price point, which is again exactly same over here what you pay for Zenfone 4, and 1K less as compared to what you pay for Motorola Moto E. As far as rear camera is concerned, the rear camera is also better over here. You have a 8 megapixel autofocus camera, high definition video recording. You have 5 megapixel camera with high definition video recording at 720p, whereas this device does not give you high definition video recording and it does not give you autofocus camera at the back. The loudspeaker is again louder over here. The loudspeaker is slightly less louder over here. So in terms of value for money, there are many points which actually make Redmi 1S the winner out of these two phones. But again, Redmi 1S will come in limited stock, so in case you are lucky enough, it is not about whether you can buy it, it is about whether whether you would like to buy it, it is not about whether you can buy it, because this will come in limited stocks and it will be sold out within 2 to 3 seconds on Flipkart as per the trend which we have seen for Xiaomi devices. We do have a secondary microphone over there on this device, whereas on this device we do not have a secondary microphone, and on this one we do have a secondary microphone on this device as well. So there are secondary microphone on this one as well as on this one. So in terms of noise cancellation, these devices will be better in terms of noise cancellation as compared to the Zenfone 4. One more point which actually makes the Redmi 1S the winner out of these three phones is the display size and the display technology. So display is IPS LCD display over here, and on the Motorola Moto E it is also IPS LCD display, but display size is bigger over here and the resolution is also 720p, whereas this is QHD resolution, that is 540 to 960 is the display resolution, whereas this is 720 to 1280, and this device is running on a lower resolution as compared to these two. So in terms of resolution as well as the display quality and the display size, Redmi 1S is going to be the winner, whereas Motorola Moto E is going to be at the second position. Now comparing these devices on the basis of inbuilt memory and the RAM. The RAM is again same on all these three phones. You have 1GB of RAM over here, 1GB of RAM here, and 1GB of RAM on the Zenfone 4, which is kind of a standard these days. When it comes to the internal memory, you have 8GB of internal memory on this device, and out of which approximately 6.5GB is going to be available to the user, whereas on this device we have 4GB of internal memory, which is the lowest, and on the Zenfone 4 we have 8GB of internal memory. So in terms of internal memory and the usage of it or the available amount of memory, these two devices are better. Again, in this case as well, we have more available memory on the Redmi 1S as compared to Zenfone 4 in terms of what you can use and what is available to the user out of 8GB. When it comes to the micro SD memory card support, you do have that on all of these three phones. You can insert a micro SD memory card over here inside this device. It will not come within the package. You will have to buy a micro SD memory card on your own. Same goes for the Zenfone 4. You do have a micro SD memory card slot, and I can actually remove the back cover, I guess. Okay. Yeah, over here. So I can remove the back cover and I can show you the phone from the back side so that you can see this micro SD memory card slot. So over here we have the micro SD memory card slot. You can insert a micro SD memory card up to 64GB on this device, whereas on this one you can insert a micro SD memory card up to 64GB again. But Motorola Moto E on the other hand, which also has a removable back cover and it has a micro SD memory card slot over there, it can support up to 32GB of micro SD memory card, so which is again less than these two phones in terms of compatibility and the size of the memory card which can be supported. Now talking about the weight and form factor, I can say that the most handy phone out of all these three is going to be the Zenfone 4, which is a kind of a handy candy bar phone. You can easily hold this phone in one hand, you can use it with one hand without any issues, you can reach every part of the screen without any issues on this phone. So Zenfone 4 is going to be the most handy phone out of all these three. In terms of the weight, I can say that the weight of Zenfone 4 is also fairly light. It is 115 gram, which is lighter than these two. And when we talk about the Motorola Moto E also has a very good curved back cover, which is matte finish and rubberized in nature, so you can actually hold this device in your hand without any issues. You don't even need a back cover or an extra protection from the back cover, because it is good enough. It won't get the scratches very easily, and fingerprints as well will not be visible. You can easily swipe them out. Apart from this, this is also a very good handy candy bar phone. You can use this phone as well with one hand without any issues. I can reach every part of the screen without any problem, and the weight of this device is slightly heavier as compared to the Zenfone 4. The weight of Motorola Moto E is 142 gram, which is slightly heavier as compared to this one, but again not too heavy to hold. When we talk about Redmi 1 is slightly more heavier than these two phones. In terms of the weight, this phone is having a 4.7-inch display. This one has a 4-inch display, so definitely, which makes it lighter. This one is 4.3, which is again slightly bigger, but the device weight is not that much. It is again 142 gram, but this device weigh around 158 gram, which is again fairly light as compared to these two phones. Again, it has a bigger display than these two phones as well, but in terms of the overall form factor, this one might feel little bit heavier over time, but you can get used to it once you start using the device. So in terms of the form factor, I can use this phone as well with one hand, although this will give you a bigger display size for multimedia and gaming, and you can run almost any high definition game on this device, because we have installed Modern Combat 4, Temple Run, OZ, Frontline Commando D-Day, Blood and Glory. All these games were running perfectly fine on this device. We have Adreno 305 GPU on this device, which is capable of running all these games, whereas the Motorola Moto E is also capable of running almost any high definition game, provided you have storage for the same. When it comes to this installing applications on the SD card is concerned, we do have the option of installing application on the SD card on the Zenfone 4, but we do not have that option either on the Redmi 1S or on the Motorola Moto E. So let's now conclude everything together, and I would like to point out the good points of Redmi 1S first of all. So good points of Redmi 1S is going to be the bigger display size, a better display resolution, better front camera, better rear camera, and the battery on this device is also higher than these two. So in terms of the battery rating, this device has 2050 mAh rating battery, which is higher than the Zenfone 4 as well as the Motorola Moto E. So these are going to be the things which are going to be in favor. And hardware, in terms of hardware, the processor is also higher on this one. So in almost every department, this phone is superior than the Motorola Moto E as well as Zenfone 4. Talking about Zenfone 4 is again good option in case you cannot buy, or in case you are not lucky to buy the Redmi 1S. You can always go for Zenfone 4 as well, which will give you a slightly smaller display, but again this one will be a candy bar phone. This one will be a better choice if you actually select in between the Zenfone 4 and the Motorola Moto E. This one has a front camera which is missing in this case. This one has a Zen UI which gives you a lot of options, which is not the case over here. This one also gives you a 5 megapixel camera which can record high definition video at 720p, which is also good. The build quality of this device is also good. You do have touch capacitive buttons over there, which is again better, because you do have touch capacitive buttons not on the body of the phone but within the display, which is a kind of a difficult thing to use for many people out there. So in terms of comparison, I can say that Redmi 1S is the winner out of all these three. Whereas the Zenfone 4 is also a pretty good choice compared to Moto E, but if you compare it with Redmi 1S, it is not that great choice. This one definitely will give you a slightly lesser display size, but again in terms of camera department, this one is better. You do have front camera over here as well. You do not have front camera over here on the Moto E. So in all, I would like to say that in this comparison, I can say the Redmi 1S is on the top, the Zenfone 4 is at the second position, and Motorola Moto E, which is now older, which was used to be a very good device, very popular device and very nice device as compared to the other devices which were there in the market when Moto E was launched. Now it is at the third position, and now it is time to fade out the Moto E out of the situation, and you should select any of these two phones if you have a price budget of 6K. Again, this will cost you 7K, whereas these two phones will give you better hardware specification for 6K price, which is less than the Moto E price. And if we compare another phone, we have the fourth phone which we have not compared till now, which is the Nokia Lumia 530, which we have with us. This phone does not even come close to any of these three phones in terms of the kind of gaming experience you can have, in terms of the kind of entertainment experience you can have, the kind of camera you have. The camera is good on this one as well, but again the front camera is missing over here. So you can compare the Lumia 530 with Moto E maybe, but definitely don't compare it with the Redmi 1S and Zenfone 4 in terms of hardware specification. Even the OS is definitely different, which is altogether a different story, but in terms of hardware and value for money, what you can get in the camera department, what you can get on the hardware, this phone is definitely not worth comparing with the Zenfone 4 and the Redmi 1S, whereas you can compare it with Moto E as of now, and we will do a separate video for these two phones later. As of now, I can say this is at the first position, this is at the second, and this is at the third position in this comparison review of all these three phones. So in case we missed anything, in case you have any questions related to any of these three phones, we would love to help you. You can like this video help you by clicking the like button below. You can subscribe to our YouTube video channel for more videos like this by clicking the subscribe button below. Thanks for watching this video. This is Abhishek signing off. Thank you.